All right, this is live. Welcome everybody, my name is Brian Kwong. I'm the founder of the Add1Challenge, where language learners around the world get together to aim for the goal of being able to hold a 15-minute conversation in 90 days. So we have some participants in here, and we also have some finalists in here. The finalists are picked by the community, and one of those finalists will win a flight ticket today. Go into that, let's do a quick introduction of the polyglots here. Maya, can you mute your mic, please? I can hear somebody drilling something or cutting something. Okay. All right. So, Richard, you there?
I am indeed. Hello.
Hello, Richard. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me again. It's always good fun to be on the Add1Challenge finale. So, for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Richard Simcott, and I'm from the UK. And I like languages quite a lot. So I enjoy taking part on the panel to decide the winner of the Add1Challenge. It's always a very tough decision, but always a very fun one as well. I get to work alongside the lovely Brian for his handsome good looks, and also this time with Vlad, which is always an honor, never a chore. And yeah, this time I've really enjoyed looking at all the videos and watching all the progress. So everyone who's taken part this year, fantastic work. Every time I'm always amazed by what everyone's done. So it's always a pleasure for me. I'm in the midst at the moment of getting ready for the Polyglot Conference, which is taking place in Thessaloniki at the end of October. There are still a few tickets available, so if anybody is interested in coming, you can go to polyglotconference.com and get a ticket. It's an event for anyone who loves languages. You don't have to be a polyglot to come. It's just called that because it was founded by polyglots.
Great, great. All right. Lloyd?
Hi, Brian. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Vladimir Skluteti. I come from Slovakia, work as an interpreter of Mandarin, Chinese, Slovak, and English. I also like languages. Not as much as Richard, but like languages. And it's a great honor to be here. I'm very happy to be able to have the honor to judge what everybody has achieved in these 90 days. It was a very difficult decision again, just like last time. It's always very complicated to judge something like that because there's so many factors in play. Yeah, so I hope we can debate that a little bit and see who's going to win. Yeah, that's about it. So
the debate was already done.
Right.
All right. So, but it was a fierce one. Yes. I guarantee you. So, so let's go with some questions first. People who are in the Hangout, any questions for Richard and Vlad?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I have a question. I'm currently learning Italian. And for me, I really want to learn languages because I want to speak to people about things that really actually interest me. And I'm normally not interested at all in having like some kind of small talk stuff and in learning the sort of textbook vocabulary or textbook language learning things. And so what I've been doing recently is just kind of try to start. I started at a 0 level, and I just kind of jumped into trying to have conversations that really interest me. For example, talking about complicated or deep things. And I wonder if you have any suggestions for me, how I can expand on that, how I can like learn a language from a 0 level, at the same time not be in the situation where I talk to people about things that really don't interest me just because they seem easy.
Great question.
Okay, so Nina, I'm going to say that I think I understand where you're coming from. I do think you may come up with some problems later on if you ignore everything of the basic level. Because what you find is when you're learning a language, if you want to talk about things, the more you get into the language, and you can potentially skip some of these basic topics, but you find that you'll be in a very difficult conversation. Someone will come up with a very basic question and you just won't know the vocabulary and you'll feel really silly. And it's not the same silly as, because I've been in that situation, I know, because of if you learn languages that are similar to other ones you speak, it's very, very easy to skip all of those levels and just start speaking about things that are more etherical, more interesting and engaging mentally in terms of what you'd speak about in your native language. And I totally empathize with you. You know, when I was studying Norwegian, I could have done that quite easily. I could have just gone straight to talking about politics and religion and whatever else I wanted to. But I actually stopped my teacher and said, no, as boring as it might be for me, I need to go through and learn the very basic vocabulary. And the reason is because I need to be able to engage with people on a daily basis in Norway. And they would ask me about those things. They would ask me what time it is. They would ask me about the, you know, money, numbers. And these are things that we sometimes skip over quite quickly, but they're well worth getting good at. I'd say mix in some of this with what you're doing, just for your own sanity when you get further on with the language, so that you don't feel that deficit of vocabulary or grammatical structures that you need to mix in, because there comes a point where even if you are talking about something you're really interested in, you may need to say, oh, but I'm going to the cinema at 2:45, but you can't say 2:45 because you've not learnt the times properly. You know, do you know what I mean? It may not be that example, but there'll be other examples from the basic levels that you do need to get right. So I would encourage you to not completely ignore them. But otherwise, there are some cool things, like for Italian, Euronews has a really cool app that you can, and videos on the internet where you can watch news in English and then watch it in Italian and do compare contrasts and maybe start talking about things that interest you in the news and stuff. But yeah, do look back at the basic stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that. I relate to what you said about feeling a bit silly. When I felt in the last conversation I had with my conversation exchange partner, I was able to explain kind of a complicated concept, and then the next time we talk about, oh, my family is here to visit, or I'm going swimming now, and I'm like, I don't know any of those words, and I have to look every one of them up in Google Translate. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think that, like, on a very practical level, you can just start reading novels and basically translate every single word that you don't know, or at least maybe in the beginning until you get the hang of it, and then know which words you kind of don't have to look up because they're just maybe some adjective or something like that. And just read through a couple of books, because, you know, reading helps speaking a lot in any language, right? And it's just sort of like a supplementary technique that you can use to build up that fluency. And you can talk about anything, basically, right? But as Richard said, small talk is almost sort of like a subset of a language. Like if you go to a store, and I remember until today when I went to the pizzeria for the first time in Italy, and it was like 3 weeks until I understood what the person was telling me. And it was usually just 1 or 2 sentences, because it's really just like a subset of the language which you don't get to use that often. But yeah, so I would just suggest read a book. That's what I did with Italian. I came to Italy, and the first day or the second day I was there, I just bought The Old Man and the Sea, and I translated every single word that I didn't know. So of course it took me like 4 hours to read 3 pages, but you know, you get to 7, then to 20, then to 25, and then, you know, you read 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, and all of a sudden you read without a dictionary, and it really helps. So yeah, it's just something that's literally like a neat trick that can get you to like this fluency faster. So
great, awesome. All right, next question, Sarah. You want to ask your question so I don't have to ask it for you?
I can't remember exactly how I worded it. It was what do you know now that you wish you'd known when you started out learning languages?
That's a really good question, Sarah. I'll let Vlad answer it. I'll let seriously, I think the main thing is when I first started, it would be kind of see, I've never been much of a competitive person myself. I don't feel the need. I always compete with myself, but to sort of understand that other people do feel that way, and they feel, and to try and understand the reasons behind that earlier, so that when we're speaking about it, so we didn't feel that there was any competition ever, because I think that the competition with yourself is the most valuable. And I suppose the one thing I've learned from this is where people have known things that I don't know very much about, and there are lots and lots of things that people know that I am completely ignorant of, or my knowledge is woefully lacking. It would be, I don't need to emulate those people. I can carry on just with my strengths and focus on those, and it's fine. And if I want to dabble in something, it's fine to dabble. I don't need to be an expert in everything. So that you know, I don't put the pressure on myself. I think that's one of the key things, that mistakes that we make as human beings generally, is that we put this pressure on ourselves to be perfect. We put this pressure on ourselves to do things that are almost like the sort of the level of a computer or a robot. And we actually have lives. We have real tangible things that are going on around us that you know, interfere with our emotions and our ability to do other things and achieve all of the goals that we have. And I think sort of adding a sense of realism is something that comes with experience, and yeah, seeing how things develop in life, and being happy with, just learning to be happy with that, I think is probably something that's come with my years of study, and you know, not feeling bad about you know, about not being amazing at every single thing. I suppose that's kind of where I'd say. And yeah, that's probably what I'd say was the best thing that I've learned over the years.
Cool.
So I'm extremely competitive, but in a friendly way. Like I never hate or anything like that. It just gives me a lot of motivation. So yeah, what would I change, or it's a very deep question. Like it's really difficult. I think that probably I just realized that motivation is the most important thing in learning for me, and I'm just losing it, or I've been losing it in the past, I don't know, 5-6 years. And I guess I just hope that when I was really, really motivated, I hope that I would have studied even more, much more, traveled more, and just, so I guess when you like really, really, really feel like you want to learn, just learn as much as you can, because once you lose that drive, it's at least for me, it was over. So I guess that's right. I think the things that I did them correctly, but unfortunately that drive just faded away, and now, you know, it's different. So something like that.
Got it. Take advantage when you're motivated. All right, cool.
Strike
Okay,
the iron while it's hot.
that's right. Strike it while it's hot. All right, so let me ask the question from the Facebook group. This question is from Jonathan. When studying multiple languages to maintain their levels, is it more effective to study each one separately in an intensive block of time, or study briefly in each language and intervene in language at different periods? For example, 1 hour French, 1 hour Spanish, 1 hour German, or 10-minute French, 10 minutes Spanish, 10 minutes German. So intensely or kind of like short spurs. Which one works better for you guys when you want to maintain the levels?
Can I answer this real quick? I had this question asked many, many times. So if you're just a complete beginner, then my answer would be 3 months of Spanish, 3 months of French, 3 months of German, never together, because it's just much more effective to do that way.
Yeah. What if you're more experienced language learner? You still recommend that?
Actually, yeah. If you're more experienced, no. I mean, if you are, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. It depends on what your level is in that language. Like if you're a complete beginner in Spanish, French, and German, then 3 months of German, 3 months of Spanish, 3 months of, what was the last one? I don't know. So because it's just too time consuming to keep those languages apart in your head.
Yeah.
And instead you can just learn one, then you learn the second one and just keep up with the first one. Then you go to the third one and keep up with the two that you already learned.
I like it.
In the end, you will have 9 months, you will have 3 languages with less effort. Or you have, I think he said 10 minutes of one, 10 minutes of the second one, the third one. After 9 months, you will not reach the same level as with 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. I personally think so.
Yes. Add one at a time. All right, Richard.
I'd say, I think you mentioned something about keeping up languages as well in that question. So
Yeah.
I'll sort of take a different route on this. I think what Vlad's saying does make a lot of sense. I mean, I think it can work, depends on the person. I always say try out, because everyone's different. We all learn differently. But I mean, I have learned 2 languages from scratch at the same time, and it's worked okay. But there are always very specific circumstances that I'm in for that. But otherwise, I would agree that on the whole with Vlad. But if you're trying to keep languages up that you've already learned, and you want to just keep them topped up, then I think that however feels doable for your lifestyle. I mean, you know, if you've only got half an hour or an hour a day free that you can realistically do it because you've got work and family and whatever else and travel, then you know you need to cut your cloth according to, you know, what's available really. So you can't add hours to your day, unfortunately. What you can do is make use of, say, listening time, where you might be able to listen on your journey to work, or so you do, maybe on your journey to work you do French, on your journey back you do German, whether that's half an hour or however long it takes. And then that way you're keeping up the language, you're listening to it and keeping a hand in, even if it's only passively. But the good thing is, I think, also to set yourself at least a couple of times a week where you will sit down and do something, whether that's with a tutor, or you know that, okay, on that day I take my son or my daughter to a ballet class or whatever you take them to, and while I wait for them in the car, I'm gonna take my book with me for Swahili, and I'm gonna just read it, and go over the lesson, and you know, revise it. Or I'm going to read a passage from the book that I'm reading in Irish, and I'm going to read it. Whatever you're doing, I think it's consistency, and doing it that way is always the most important thing.
So I saw a question that's related to this. How do you cope with language interference? Meaning, how do you keep each language within its own borders in the brain without leaking over into the others? Is it once you reach a certain level of fluency, or is it always going to be a challenge? My French words keep coming out when I'm trying to speak Italian.
I don't know. This is again something that people ask me a lot. I think that I only kind of have language interference between languages that I haven't been using for a very long time, or languages that I don't speak that well. I just started learning them, and those languages are similar to some languages that I already speak. Like when I speak Hungarian, I never have any English words coming in, or unless really I speak English on a daily basis, and I haven't used Hungarian for a very long time. So I don't know. I think it's like there's this thing called the epiphany point or epiphany moment. People talk about it a lot. It's like this moment when you kind of realize how to speak the language. And I think that when you pass this point, and then you kind of give yourself at least a month of real practice past that point, is when you don't have any language interference with that language anymore. I guess, I would only guess, but people probably have done or should do some research about how it really works. But to me, just off the fly, I would say that's how it works.
I'd say, in my experience, it's been either languages of the same family, so grammar or vocabulary can interfere, because it's similar, or you know, it's the same in one, but it means something different in the other. So that can be an issue. But the other issue can be when languages sound similar. So the intonation of the language. Like, for example, last summer I went to Riga and I studied Latvian, and I was studying Latvian over the summer for 3 months. I kind of did an Add1Challenge Latvian, and then this summer I was in Finland, and the Latvian language has been influenced by the Finnish language group, the Finno-Ugric language group, with its flat intonation. And I found that every time I was speaking Finnish, I kept wanting to say words in Latvian in the beginning, particularly, until I got used to, saying them in Finnish. So even, instead of saying thank you, kiitos, I kept wanting to say paldies, because it sounded very similar in my head, and some of the words seemed to fit. On the whole, I don't tend to have a huge problem with this. I think it's because I like to practice languages, and I think this is where I'd go back to some of Vlad's advice here. If you're learning a language that sounds similar to a language you speak or is similar, it's probably a good idea to really intensively study the new language first. Have the other language already at a solid level where you feel comfortable speaking it, and then intensively learn the new one, and then start doing back-to-back scenarios where you have to flip between the two and force your brain through that awful nightmare scenario of like making mistakes and getting them confused, because it's only then you start teasing them apart and you have your two separate languages. That's how I found it for my languages.
It's funny, we answer this question almost every freaking time, that people just want to do like 2 at the same time or 3 at the same time. How do you not separate it? I just want to say that
there is no rush. I'm sorry to jump in like that,
No,
but like there is really no rush. I mean, language learning takes time anyway. Look at it, and if you like I said, 3 months of German, 3 months of Spanish, 3 months of French, in 9 months you're going to speak 3 languages at a, I don't know, B1, B2 level. So you can achieve a lot. You don't have to learn everything at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, again, I agree, Vlad. There is no rush. It's a marathon and not a race, and no one comes up to you with a golden cup or a medal or something for having done this. It's a labor of love, and you do it because you want to do it. So and I think it's part of feeling good in your own skin. No one's going to beat you over the head with a stick if you didn't quite get it right, and you're only going to improve yourself, and a language is always worth knowing, even a little, and the more you build on it, the better it becomes. There's no negatives in this. It's only positives, and I think that the more we focus on that and the positives, and that we're doing something meaningful and something that we enjoy, then I think that's kind of the winning combination. And as I said, I think that we should never put pressure on ourselves either to do something that's not really normal human sort of thing to be able to do, like learn a language in a day or a week or a month. As soon as we start putting ridiculous goals on our own heads, it can kind of defeat us. That can be the stick that we feel. So I think that giving yourself realistic goals, it's always nice to exceed them, but give yourself something that you can realistically feel you can do.
I love the part, it's a labor of love. It's really good. All right, so let's get a question in the Hangout. Anybody got a question? If no question, I'll go into the Facebook group. Okay, what advice do you have for improving your accent in the language you're learning?
This is a really difficult one. I guess there are some people who are preconditioned to learning accents really well. I think when I was younger, I really had the ability to mimic accents really well, possibly to a native level. Now I don't really have that capability anymore. But I think that what helped me a lot is to just really it sounds bad, but play around with your mouth, and in the sense that you listen to yourself a lot, and you just kind of, you almost like a voice actor or something like that. Just try different voices until you get the sounds that you need and stuff like that. It's really difficult. It's not that easy. It's the whole process that ranges from small details to intonation and things that are much larger than individual sounds. And like in the end, you need to concentrate on the big picture, not on the details. But you need to have the details perfectly under control to sound like native, or like to sound really well speaking a foreign language. So I really don't know how to put this into words because it's quite complicated. But I guess a lot of practice, maybe talk in like a room, like a bathroom or something like that, where you can hear yourself really well, and just listen a lot to native speakers, and a lot that's like 5 hours a day, every day for half a year. And so you have that that correct model somewhere in the back of your head at all times.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes, I think, yeah, the question does come up a lot, as Vlad said, and I think that accent is something that people perceive as very, very important sometimes. But I'd say that it's kind of like a mask that can be quite thin as well. And really, an accent is not the be-all and end-all of language learning. The be-all and end-all of language learning is actually knowing the language, and that just takes a long time to do. To learn all of the vocabulary and the grammar and to be able to manipulate it, it just takes time. There's no easy way to it. I'd say ahead of accent, focusing on pronunciation and pronouncing the words clearly, pronouncing the sounds of the language clearly, so that the speaker of the language understands you. Your accent is the badge of who you are and where you're from, and I think it can also be a handy thing to have a slight accent. In some languages it can sound sexy. In some languages it can be a benefit because it sounds cuter. It sounds, people, especially if you look like you're from the place that you're learning the language, people might make a little bit more of a sort of an effort to speak with you. Otherwise they'll just think, why can't you speak our language properly? If you have a perfect accent but you can't speak it well, you make basic mistakes, but you've got this perfect pronunciation of an accent in the language. So I'd say pronunciation, learning to speak clearly is the key, and to do that, do exactly what Vlad's saying. Listen to it a lot, repeat it a lot, record yourself. I find if you really want a good accent, then I find singing is fun to do in some languages. It doesn't really help with the pronunciation of things like Chinese, most often the tones are not respected in songs. But in some languages it is a help to get the double consonants in Italian, for example, to start listening out to them and really enunciating properly. And in other languages, I also find that exaggerating the accent for a bit, just to laugh, to make it funny. And you can do that either in the language or in your own language. So in English, if I speak English with a very heavy Russian accent, I find that all I need to do is insert the Russian words and then it's Russian. So that's the kind of, and it sounds silly, and it's the kind of thing that you might just do in your home on your own. You may not feel that you want to do it in front of lots of people, but it helps because you're hearing the sounds of a Russian speaker, it's speaking your language. And ironically, I've actually found that to be quite useful, to be able to then just substitute in and out the vocabulary and the grammar from English to Russian or whatever language it may be. It helps to get the intonation and the rhythm of the language too. But as I say, focus on being clear.
I just want to add one thing. Like Stu J actually was, if you know who he is, he was saying that one good thing that can help is to listen to, for instance, if you're learning Italian, to listen to Italians speak English and see look out for the mistakes that they're making. And so the mistakes that they're making in the English accent are the sounds that you should learn, right? Because for instance, Chinese, they don't say China, they say China, and the ch is exactly the sound that they have. That's the aspirated CH sound that a lot of Western languages don't have, and stuff like that. And another good thing that because Richard was talking about singing, a good thing is to rap, like to rap along with songs, because there are lots of words in there, and you know, you need to move your speech organs really fast, and helps a lot. It's a good training. And also to read out loud, like if you have a book, just read it for, I don't know, 20 minutes, but just read it out loud. It really helps a lot.
All right, we're running out of time. So Maya, you want to ask your question quickly?
Yeah, I just had a question about choosing reading materials. I'm a reader and a writer, and so I want to be able to just read books in my language. And I'm wondering, is it more beneficial to pick like a regular novel and go through it and spend the 6 hours trying to read a page? Or is it more beneficial to find like Hooked on Phonics for Spanish kids and go through that?
I'd just go for the novel, because like the book for phonics for little kids is, it sounds bad, but you don't want to sound like a little kid, you know. So I would just go with a novel, and especially like a lot of the languages that kind of people learn, like Spanish, Italian, French, these languages are very easy, like relatively easy compared to Japanese, Chinese. So it's quite easy to learn how to read in Italian. It takes literally like maybe, I don't know, a week, something like that. So I would just go for a novel, and especially it's much more pleasure to read something like that than, you know, phonics.
I'd say that I don't know about a week for Italian, but you kind of shocked me there, Vlad. Okay, if you're superhuman, then you may do Italian in a week. I don't know, but if you're a mere mortal like me, then it may take a little bit more time. I find that for a lot of these bigger languages, you have some really good readers that are pitched at different levels, and you can move up the levels with the readers, and they'll introduce you and really solidify the types of vocabulary and types of grammar that you need to really practice over and over again. They may not be that interesting compared to a serious novel, but you'll find that they may have, you know, like sort of in English, for people learning English, they're really spoiled because they get all of the big novels reduced and rewritten for the actual levels. And you can kind of get that for some of the languages as well. So I know for Russian, I remember seeing lots and lots of things for this. These are all things that I didn't get in Spanish, or because they were languages I learned at school and then later on, and it wasn't as easy to get hold of them back then, you know, before internet and all that kind of stuff came along. But I'd say those kinds of things might be interesting, and also if you want to move through them more quickly than say 3 pages in like 4 hours, if you feel frustrated looking up every word, you may find that you're just able to start enjoying the story as well, which will hopefully keep you motivated through. I think some people do react very well to sort of, you know, looking up every single word, and they're very, very motivated just to learn the language and learn the thing. Other people out there listening may think, oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. And, you know, this is where Vlad and I, you know, what he's done in his advice is completely right, because he's fantastic at the languages he speaks. So, you know, the proof is in the results. And I know firsthand that Vlad is really, really good at what he does. But what he's suggesting now is the antithesis of what I would do. I would be like, oh my, no, I'm not touching a page of a book that I need to spend 3 hours on to read the first page. And I would never look up every single word either. I would most certainly go more with easier books for me. So for Italian, if anybody's out there watching this, I picked this up at you know, this sort of book. It was translated into Italian from English, and it's a lovely, lovely story. And this is probably something that you could tackle at kind of an intermediate level in Italian, and it's lovely. If you can get something like that in Spanish, it's about a kid's story going through school and with Treacher's syndrome. And I think, you know, if you can, things like that are quite fun. Yeah, it's written with kind of kids in mind, but it's not, you know, kiddie, like a phonics book. Something like that might be fun, like a teenage sort of stuff, you know, that kind of stuff. Go back to your teens, girl, you know, enjoy it.
Thank you very much. You've just given me permission to read Harry Potter.
Enjoy. Don't look
Great.
at Goblet every time. You just have to learn a few weird words and you'll be fine.
Great. I mean, that's a great example of, like, you know, we all learn differently. We also gotta test it and find our own ways, that what works for us, what works best for us. That's why you guys are in the Add1Challenge. Figure it out, play with it, test it out. All right, so that's all. We already went over time when answering too many questions, so we need to stop answering questions. Now let's go over to the final. Look at Hannah. She's smiling over there already. She's like, "Are we gonna get going now or what?" I see you there. All right, so let's introduce yourself. Where are you from? What language did you learn? And what did you learn from that Add1Challenge for the past 90 days of learning your target language? Who wants to go first? Hannah.
I'm Hannah from, oh my, that's a difficult question right now. I'll just state where I'm living right now. I'm living in Saint-Georges, Quebec. My native language is English, and I took Icelandic for the Add1Challenge completely from scratch on day 0, knew absolutely nothing. And what I learned in the Add1Challenge is that it's completely possible to learn a language and be comfortable in it in 90 days. I completely blew my expectations away. I didn't think I would get nearly that far. To be able to have a reasonably smooth conversation at the end, that's perhaps because Icelandic is more closely related to English than the language I did for my last Add1Challenge in Finnish.
All right, Maya, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Maya. English is my first language, and I took on Spanish. I'm currently in New Orleans, and yeah, that's been a whole trip in and of itself. And what did I learn? I learned so much during the Add1Challenge, it's kind of ridiculous. But the biggest thing that I learned was I have hearing issues from working in a bar a long time ago, and that speaking to people in person and via camera allowed me to not only begin to learn the language, but also to learn to lip read the language. And that was a huge surprise. And when I started, I really didn't think that I could learn a language. And I learned so much, and I developed so much just personal strength in the Add1Challenge that yeah, I can't even begin to, it talked about all the things I learned just in the 3 months of working on a language.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Last person is Francis. He's in New Zealand, and so it's really, really bad timing for him, although it's not very good timing for me either. It's 1 a.m. 1:40 a.m. But anyways, he's not here. So he took on Italian, and what he got, the biggest thing that I learned, I'm just reading what he said, the biggest thing I learned from that Add1Challenge is that there are many, many ways to learn language, and you have to find the one that works for you. Before that Add1Challenge, I hardly knew more than a few phrases, but now I'm reading professional literature in my field and communicating with an Italian friend, all in Italian. Never expected that. Most of all, I'm glad to have met so many like-minded language-loving friends here. Thank you, everyone, for your inspiration and encouragement. So that is their brief story. So Richard and Flood, is there anything you guys want to say to the finalists?
Do you want me to go first? Okay. To say that the 3 of you did really an extraordinary job and there are a number of things that impressed me. So I'll start with Hannah, because I'll go the way we went through the introductions. So Hannah, I found it's a language that I studied as well. So I mean, you know, it was really nice to hear somebody taking Icelandic. It's a funny little language that lots of people, actually, more people than you'd imagine, study it. When you consider it's spoken more widely than Welsh, less widely than Welsh, sorry. You know, Welsh we have like 500,000 speakers, and Icelandic there's what, 300,000 or something like that. It's actually quite overrepresented in terms of resources, strangely enough. But I thought to get to speak to people and to talk to people and to practice it is not an easy thing to do if you're not there. So really, really good job. I was super impressed with how well you managed yourself and being able to speak it at the end of the challenge. The way you did was truly impressive, and just a great show of the dedication that you had throughout the challenge, and you know, the effort you put in. So that's, I think, as big a prize as any for what you've achieved. So well done. You know, for you, Maya, I think that you did a great job with Spanish, and like you said, you had a lot of things to overcome with this. And I think what really impressed me was that you just carried on doing it, and you went through it. And I know that there were some real difficulties for you, you know, partway through. I know that there were some real challenges for you externally from the language learning, and I listened to all of that, and you know, and I was just like, you're such a great example and inspiration to so many people who, you know, you feel that you're not at some stage in the learning, that you're not making the progress because you've not been able to for other circumstances, but you didn't let that get in the way, and you went back to it, and you kept on, and you were carried on with your studies. And I just think, you know, hats off to you. You did a really, really good job. So, you know, fantastic work, and I'm sure you'll continue to learn more and more and more. So I've no doubt that you'll be reading all that literature that you want to, starting with Harry Potter, as soon as possible. And Francis, even though he's not here, I have to say that I loved in his video, what came across to me was his measured, calm tone all the way through every single update. It was all, yes, I'm doing it. And you could just tell from day one, this guy's he's just gonna do it. He's just going to do it. You could just tell. You didn't need to question any of the motivation or anything. It was like, he's so determined to do it. And that really came across in everything he said. So Francis, when you listen to this, fantastic job. And I thought that your final video was brilliant as well. You did a really good job in Italian. And so thank you all for sharing those stories and your progress in all of those languages. I really enjoyed following and watching and hearing about everything that you've been up to. So thank you, and well done to you all.
So for me, again, it was a very difficult choice, because this is the second time that I was invited by Brian to be a judge at the wonderful Add1Challenge. And, you know, it's always like, when you think about all the effort that people put into 90 days of learning, it's, I say here for an hour, but, you know, it's 90 days of a lot of work. So I imagine that, you know, in one way or the other, it's quite an important thing to be one of the three, even if it's just a small challenge, but still it's quite important. So it's really great how far all three of you've come. Big congratulations to all three of you. Just, you know, I subscribe to everything that Richard said. I don't think I could add anything else, but I would like to talk a little about the methodology that I personally use to evaluate or to choose who's going to be the winner for me personally. So I just try to look at it from a very pure technical point of view. How difficult the language that you're learning is for you personally, for each one of you three, and then relatively to the other two contenders, I guess, and then see who made the biggest progress. So, and then we will say who that was for me personally and for Richard. It's very interesting seeing the difference, kind of like you just snap your fingers and you have day 0 or day 1 and day 90, and it's just like the Matrix, you know, you just see unbelievable things happen. It's like super accelerated time lapse, I guess. And it was quite hard, but I think that for me personally, I had a winner when I saw the three. So again, just great job to everybody. It's a fun thing to do. Everyone is a winner, and then we're going to talk about who is going to be the winner in this case. So.
All right. Okay. Let's see. So, y'all ready? Ooh. All right. So before I announce the winner, I just want to say amazing job for all three of you guys. And actually everybody who's in the Add1Challenge, they all did great, but you three did especially great because you guys are voted by the community. They wouldn't vote, the community wouldn't vote for you. You guys didn't do a good job. So I'm totally with the polyglots that you guys are all winners. Another thing is, I just want to say that this time we also opened to the public and allow people to watch the videos and let them vote and see what they think, who they think should win. But I didn't tell the polyglots, so they don't know what they think. So I'm just gonna say what they think. So it's actually a very close vote. Let's see, where's the result here? Where is it? So actually I can't find it, so never mind. Okay, so the public think that Francis should win, but who is the winner then? But the polyglots get to make the choice. The winner goes to Hannah. Yay. Congratulations.
I totally can't believe that. So I get to go to Iceland next summer?
Yes. You get to
like,
Iceland.
Wow. I've never been this excited before. Now I can go take that summer course that I was so jealous my friend was doing this year. I really wanted to go. He was doing that at the same time. I was actually I'd finished the Add1Challenge, and then he went to Iceland to take a summer course. Come on, put me in your luggage, please.
Great. All right.
You deserve it, Hannah. That's awesome.
Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and congratulations, Hannah. Anything else you want to say for winning the Add1Challenge? Number 14. No, is it 14? 14. Yes, 14.
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, I just got to say a giant thank you to special people that I'll probably be sending this video to once it's uploaded. I have to thank Robert for showing me resources, for just being there to talk to, helping me with some of the videos, just being a really good motivator for all the fun times we've had discussing. And I have to say a huge thank you to Daniel from my Day 90 video, a native Icelandic speaker who spent so much of his time making sure that what I had was only the best material. He explained everything super clearly, speaking slowly, and just being a super amazing teacher. I've got to say a huge thank you to them. Þakka þér kærlega fyrir. That's like the most famous, most formal way you can say thank you.
Great. All right. Okay, so so thank you again for the polyglots, Richard and Clyde. So where can we get a hold of you? and find more of you? Richard?
Okay, so you can find me on Facebook on my Speaking Fluently page, which is facebook.com/Speaking Fluently. And also join me in Greece for the Polyglot Conference, which is polyglotconference.com. And once again, til hamingju, Ísland, það var gaman að heyra íslensku. Takk fyrir. And so I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. You can find me under Vladimir Skultety, Vladimir, and then Skultety. And yeah, I have a Facebook page, but it's just the same name. I make videos sometimes about language learning. I write a book about Chinese characters too. So if you're interested in that, you can find all of that on my YouTube channel. Congratulations again.
Awesome, awesome. So congratulations, Hannah, and all the finalists. You guys are winners. And the next Add1Challenge opening up soon. So go to add1challenge.com if you'd like to learn to learn a language together as a community. Like, you know, these great people supporting each other and aiming for being able to hold a 15-minute conversation in 90 days. It's worthwhile. It's great. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next Add1 finale. Bye.